How you doing, Internet? I'm Beanuts, and today we'll be taking a look at Frame Arms Girl, InnocenTia by Kotobukiya. Full disclosure, InnocenTia is my second mecha musume, but also my first Frame Arms Girl. And as you can see, I have done much in order to try to improve their looks and equip them up so they can play with the big boys. You're perhaps wondering why I decided to paint InnocenTia this way rather than leaving her in her natural colors. It all happened when I first saw the first release photos of InnocenTia Blue and immediately thought, well, that's Hestia from Danmachi. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's thought of that, but as soon as I did, I couldn't get out of my head. And since I had already ordered InnocenTia, the original version, through HLJ, and it was going to be coming, I decided I would instead paint the original InnocenTia into the blue colors. And while I was at it, I decided to have a little bit of modifications. And you may notice as well that the black that I used for her hair is extremely shiny. First, pretty much everything was more of a matte, but anything that I repainted, became shiny. And there are a few spots that I wasn't able to color, because of course I'm using Gundam marker to color, and that doesn't get everywhere. InnocenTia does not come with weapons, she comes with options. And I believe she was intended for the same sort of purposes as Materia, as another baseline unit with which to modify the older units like Gurai and Jinrai, in order to give them greater flexibility and posability. Ironically, and say as she comes apart on my Figma stand. And this has been coming up a lot. I'll probably end up gluing it. She does come with a lot of optional parts, including these ones, which have the connection points. And the one on her back, you have one that has one connection port. On here, the lower half, you have one that doesn't have connection ports, so you can choose how many connections you want as well. They bothered to sculpt her feet. One difference that I've noted is that this has a much more organic feel in construction. Even when compared to, say, Super Fumina, the parts here look much more human. And it's also one of the things that makes it stranger, that you're dealing with something that looks more human and is a human girl. And that will never not be strange for me, I expect. So you have her thigh-high boots, and I'm going to constantly get those mixed up which side they are, but you can tell by the instep of the shoe, and the general direction of the shoe, which one's supposed to be which. And they don't come painted like that. I had to paint those bars in, and actually, this doesn't come with any stickers. Oh no. It comes with water slides for the eyes, but anything that's on there is already on there. There are no stickers. So you have those. You have the elbow glove arms, which you saw on it earlier. You have these options for the hair pieces, which when you put them on will allow you to reassemble the head without the connections for the twin tails. You have a connection piece for the animal ears. So here you have the organic looking cat ears. And this piece and this piece is a separate piece. You can see the original red in there as well as the original hair color. I will show how to change that later. You get two smaller ears. Try to flip that around so you can see them better. And these ones specifically have a mechanical look to them, rather than the more organic ones that I showed you before. Floppy dog ears, fox ears, and these are constructed of 3 pieces. You have the backing, which I painted darker blue, the front, which I painted light blue, and the white inner earpiece. Pointed ears, I think they're uppy dog ears, and all of the ears have this peg to connect to the hair piece here. And I can show you right now, actually. I want to, this is a piece that connects by sliding into the back there. It's very easy for it to come out. And I will, there we go, do my best to make sure that it doesn't. And then if you want to put the headpiece on, just, that comes out very easily. There we go. Clicked right in. And then you've got her with animal ears. These are some of the connection pieces without the ports. Before I move on to the box itself, you can see here that HLJ included an order form that's based on the runner. You can try to order just a replacement part, but I do believe that this is for Japan only, not for outside of Japan. I mean, you could talk to HLJ or AmiAmi or one of those and try to see whether or not you can actually do the process, but I don't know whether or not you can. So here are some of the other hands. You have fists, open hands, sort of open half grabby, spread hands, and pointy hands. Fists, grabby hand, holding hands, spread open finger hands, and pointy hands in the flesh colors. In order to change the hands, or really almost any limb, just grab and tug and put that in. And that's a changed hand. And to change a limb, you just have to pull that off, context, and then put that on. Just like that. And one of the weird quirks I can show you is where you do the leg, you don't pull off the whole thigh, is that these rings on the inside, and you can choose whether to have it white or flesh colored, but they're marked. This one has an L near the top. Not sure whether or not you can see it on the camera, but it does. So that is marked as the left leg. These ones are not marked, but you can generally figure out which side it's supposed to be on by whether or not it looks weird when you put it on. And it does not feel or look right. And let's just give her her holding hand for now. Then you have 2 other faces. And the first face is slightly looking off and neutral. It's looking off to the right of the camera. Second is looking straight ahead, and it's also neutral. And then this one is probably my favorite of them, where she's smiling and looking off to the left. You have the ruffle for her neck without the armor piece. You have the other white piece for the leg, back piece without a connection, and those are the arm pieces, the armlets without the connection. And one of these is actually a piece that you can use on the chest if you don't want to give her a bust. The bust consists of one piece is the black and it goes onto the backing, the white piece, and then there's also a hinge hook for the connection to her chest. The polycaps, which is very non-standard if you're used to the ones that you would get with a gun flap. And there are lots of extras there. They have different tones on them. I'm not sure if you can see on the camera, but they're different color. And these ones, just extra hinges. And it can be a pain to work with these because they're so small. You have this longer neck, if you want to use that. And I do think that that's a slightly different color when compared to the neck that I use, which is the shorter one. I'm not sure if you can see that, but I thought it was a different color when I was putting her together. Strange flesh-colored shoes. The skin-colored ring, marked with an L like the one that I used. As I said before, all detail normally is picked out in the plastic color itself from the very beginning. And you do have these water slide decals, and you've got some Frame On Girls one there at the bottom as well. Actually, there are two differences between this now and InnocenTia Blue. InnocenTia Blue has darker skin, and she also has blue eyes. For articulation, if this wants to stay in her head, that's kind of a ball socket joint, move all around for the twin tails. She can look up that far, down pretty far, and can go all the way around if you want. A little bit of backward and forward. Not much because it's not a double ball joint as it is on a gunpla. With the elbow joint, it goes out a bit before it can come up, but it can come up pretty far because there's nothing in the way. And down, and back in. Go around like that. Go across. Really far. And even back behind her back in a way that a human wouldn't be able to. There's a swivel below the elbow, or above the elbow, just above there. Elbow joint. Swivel and hinge. There's a cut here in a joint. You can go like that. You can see a bit underneath. Pull that out slightly. And it comes off its ball joint. Curiously, these are hinged, even though you probably shouldn't get movement from it. And then, whoops. That's a ball joint as well. And her bust came off. I can put that on again later. And around. Another issue with painting is that the paint can also come off onto it. So you've got two swivels here. This one is more limited because of the armor. What armor there is. And yes, I did paint over the thong-like undergarments that's there. I thought it would make her more presentable, and it's also a little bit cooler. And at the same time, I found out that the thong part is actually a raised area, so you can see where it was still, even though I painted over it. But it does look, I think, more presentable than it was before. Leg all the way forward. Splits all the way back, and you can see where some of the paint rubbed. Swivel here. It's obvious because that's where the leg comes off to switch it. Bend at the knee, two joints, absolutely beautiful. Same bend on here. And bends at the elbow for the flesh one, also same. Though a major difference with the flesh, besides the fact that the paint can rub on it and it looks pretty bad, is that there are a lot of nubs to clean up. And there's also a lot of undergating to clean up. They don't undergate nearly as much on here for some reason, but it is something that you'll have to consider cleaning if you want to get one of these. And you have the ankle, and it connects diagonally down. And this one, in human tilt, that's all the way forward and all the way back. And of course it can go all the way around. It goes that way. You'll be glad I showed you that when it happens to you. Also, there's a toe joint. For the normal feet, tilt side to side. That way isn't much, but this way, front, forward, backward, this is backward. Oh, you know what? If you wanted to turn it, and then tilt it, then you obviously can do that. And then toe joint on her little toeses, and this one can go down. The one on her shoe can't go down. And of course, for every one of these standard 3mm connection points, you can put something on and equip her up. I still have this one from the Mega Slash Edges for handle. I should also cover how to switch over the faceplates. They have pegs in the back, and align with those. So just like before, you take off the hairpiece and then pull out the faceplate, choose the one you want, it's down there. See, I wanted different ears, ones that just show off my massively bad paint job. And by bad, I mean purely amateurish. See, that came out, slide right back in. Trying to wiggle it in all the way. And then that should be able to click in. In putting her together, I found both familiar and new aspects. It's all still pretty strange to me, and in a way I hope I don't get used to it. I do plan on acquiring Hyper Gyanko and Winning Fumina. Difficulties concerning parts that could be glued on instead of simply snapped together aren't uncommon for Gunpla and other such classic models. I don't think they're that big a deal in here, especially considering some of the alternatives. Frame Arms Girl InnocenTia is put together in such a way that gives her, as I said, a more organic look, a more natural look than, especially with the example of Super Fumina beside her, because those joints are designed to look like something else. InnocenTia and Frame Arms Girls as a whole are designed with a different dynamic and aesthetic in mind. In comparing my InnocenTia, Hestia, and my Star Wish, you can see a clear difference in construction, design, even proportions. If you were to take a look, the body and head look even slightly different. Mina's bust, torso, and waist are definitely much larger They look to be almost exactly the same height. In the Superfumina's construction, you have a faceplate with empty eyes, and then you have the piece with the eyes in between, or in behind. You put in the stickers for the eyes and eyelashes, or you paint or color, whatever you want to do there. And then there's a simple set of hair pieces and head pieces that go in around that. In InnocenTia, where there are multiple hair pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4 at least, plus the twin tails if you want to include that, the face plate, which has the eyes directly on it, together with any teeth or smile they may have. It's clear that there's going to be a difference in aesthetic when that comes out. In proportions, as well as having the faceplate, InnocenTia more closely resembles a Figma, in my opinion. And while I still have them here, let's compare InnocenTia to the MG ARC-78-2 Gundam The Origin. Compared to a Figma figure, Tiana Landstar in this case, body proportions and the face look very, very similar, despite the obvious size difference between them. If you take a look at the design details and how similar they are to something like a Figma, rather than to a high-grade kit such as Superfumina, then you begin to see how the price point might be justified. And for a last little comparison, how about Apple Magician Girl, since she's also by Kotobukiya? Well, this is definitely a case of the one thing where Kotobukiya kit isn't going to be compatible. I do have to say that I do appreciate attempts to make these things more compatible with each other. These are the MSG Gunblade Lance, and on her back you have the Mega Slash Edge with the hilt over here on her thigh. But you also have one of the HG IBO Fluorosis short cannons from one of the IBO sets here on her thigh. So you can actually use other stuff because all of these ports on her are standard 3mm pegs, or ports. However, not everything is going to fit there. As well, there are some difficulties simply because these hands, while flexible, aren't really solid enough to hold all that much, and I keep having to put the lances back in because they keep on falling down. In fact, I'm using the Figma stand as a point to balance them off of so that they won't fall down as much. Not quite as much anyway. They're still going to fall off occasionally, but she looks awesome, so it doesn't really matter to me all that much. Final thoughts about this model kit. Frame Arms Girl's InnocenTia is a highly versatile model. She is highly articulate, and chances are that if you were to use some of the other FIA girls' armor and arms with her, they would fit her more or less perfectly. Since she is my first and so far only FA girl, I do like the idea that she can be armed and equipped and look like she can stand on her own merits. She has many, if not accessories, then options, so if I get tired of seeing her in one way, I can change it up and have her look another way. This has been a video review of FA Girl's InnocenTia from Kotobukiya, and originally she would have looked a lot more like that. If you do get InnocenTia rather than InnocenTia Blue, do keep in mind that she's going to look very different. Well, that about wraps up this review. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please drop me a like. You can comment below what you thought. You can subscribe to show your support for my channel and go to my Patreon to support me there. So, with that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye!